Welcome to the History in Focus channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this one. At the Last Frontier Hotel pool in Las Vegas, tourists relax while watching the mushroom cloud of a nuclear test in the Nevada desert in 1953. At the time, nuclear detonations were a public spectacle in the city. A retro-designed robot pushes a baby stroller in an unusual scene. During the 1950s and 60s, futuristic inventions like this were used to demonstrate advances in robotics and impress the public. Gus Waldorf steps into the ring to face a trained bear in a promotional wrestling match in March 1949. These events were staged as bizarre attractions, disregarding risks for both humans and animals. A suit covered in metal spikes was created for protection against wild animals or hand-to-hand combat. Known as the Wildman suit, its origins are uncertain, but it is displayed in a museum in Texas. A woman sits with her arms and legs submerged in 4 buckets connected to electrical wires. The device, used around the 1930s, applied an electric current to the water to stimulate blood circulation. A woman sits reading while wearing a mask connected to a metal device via a flexible tube. The apparatus, dating back to 1919, was designed to filter air during the flu epidemic that followed World War I. 4 women pose holding rifles in Maryland, United States in 1950. They used these firearms to capture 4 men who had been terrorizing the neighborhood for 3 weeks, holding them until the police arrived. A satirical photograph created by pro-alcohol advocates in the United States in 1919 mocks prohibitionists. The temperance movement culminated in prohibition. The Hell's Cafe in Paris recreated a macabre atmosphere with decor inspired by hell. Frequented by bohemians and the curious, the venue offered a unique experience in the 1920s. Martin Lorello, known as the Human Owl, could rotate his head 180 degrees. He performed in circuses and fairs in the 1930s and 40s, including Ripley's Believe It or Not, astonishing audiences with his unique ability. French soldiers joke with a comrade nicknamed the Human Snake to pass the time during a break in World War I battles. The moment was captured on the front lines in France in 1915. A police car in the 1920s is equipped with a front grille designed to prevent serious injuries to pedestrians struck by the vehicle. The device was meant to stop victims from falling under the wheels. The auto wash bowl was a car washing system from the 1920s where vehicles moved through a pool of running water. The idea was that motion and water pressure would clean the tires and undercarriage. Soviet surgeon Vladimir Demikhov created the first 2-headed dog in 1954. The operation involved grafting a smaller dog onto a German shepherd. Both heads could hear, see, and swallow, but they died after 4 days. 2 peculiar-looking women with extremely long hair pose on a house balcony, likely in the early 20th century, a time when long hair was a symbol of femininity. A mysterious figure appears at the top of the staircase in the Amityville house, captured in 1976. Known as the Amityville Ghost Boy, the photo was taken during a paranormal investigation and still sparks debates today. A secret witness testifies in court, using a sheet to conceal their identity. The trial involved a drug case and required protection due to the risk of retaliation in Washington in 1952. Beauty pageant contestants wear masks to ensure that judgments are based solely on their bodies. This uncommon practice aimed to eliminate any influence of facial appearance on selecting the winner. A waitress holds a plate with a uranium burger in Salt Lake City in 1954. The name referenced the uranium mining boom when the element was promoted as a symbol of progress in the United States. A device from the 1950s designed to allow a person to smoke while lying down. It featured an inflatable pillow, a protective mask, and a tube to prevent ashes from falling onto the bedding. Jacob Miller was a Civil War veteran who survived 17 years after being shot directly between the eyes. The bullet remained lodged in his skull, causing constant pain. Mirandajo became famous in the 20th century for piercing his body with various objects without apparent injuries, defying medical science. However, his incredible feat ended tragically after swallowing a needle, which caused his death. Circus performer Millie Kays performs a daring act, placing a python's head inside her mouth at the Peggy Bradford Hotel Bar in 1952. Known for her eccentric performances, she was a vaudeville star. Anna Haining Swan Bates, a Canadian circus performer, poses next to her parents. Standing at 7 feet 11 inches tall, she was one of the tallest women in history. She married fellow giant Martin Van Buren Bates. A man relaxes in a portable sauna tub in 1955. The device was designed to enclose the body and release hot steam, allowing the user to sweat while remaining seated with their hands free. In 19th century Persia, male aesthetics influenced the beauty standards of women in the Qajar court. Noble women adopted thick eyebrows and light mustaches, traits that were highly valued at the time. Two giants from Kashmir are posing with American photographer James Rickalton, who was about 5 feet 5 inches tall. Traveling through Asia, he captured impressive figures for exhibition in the United States in 1903. In 1890, a patient undergoing mental health treatment in Germany is restrained in a crucifixion position. Such methods were common at the time, used as forms of containment and supposed therapy. A person displays teeth sculpted in a detailed pattern, the result of a traditional practice in some tribes. Even today, certain indigenous groups in Southeast Asia and Africa maintain this custom in rituals. A makeshift school bus travels through the snowy streets of Maine in 1930, pulled by horses. To protect the students from the intense cold, the vehicle's body was enclosed and equipped with a small wood stove. Two young women pose dressed as fairies in Victorian-era costumes, holding star-tipped wands. The unusual detail is the white masks covering part of their faces, a curious accessory that makes the scene even more enigmatic. A woman wears a futuristic-looking acrylic device covering her entire head while reading a book. Created in the 1960s, this experimental invention promised protection from pollution and external distractions. A child is placed inside a wicker cage, a form of punishment used in some schools and institutions in the early 20th century. The goal was to restrict movement to discipline misbehavior. A young woman in a white dress sits in an antique chair, holding a large book. Her face is covered by an enigmatic metal mask, decorated with a crescent moon and flowers, creating a mysterious and surreal appearance. A woman poses wearing a facial swimming mask designed to protect her skin from the sun in the 1920s. This unusual accessory was popular among those who wanted to avoid tanning, keeping their skin pale according to the beauty standards of the time. A supposed pirate is held in a wooden restraint while awaiting execution in China around 1900. This public punishment method was used to deter crimes and reinforce local authority. A streamlined motorcycle from the 1920s is almost entirely enclosed, covering both the chassis and the rider. The design aimed to reduce air resistance and increase speed, a groundbreaking concept for the time. An experimental pedal-powered ambulance from the 1920s, designed to transport injured people in hard-to-reach areas. The three-wheeled vehicle featured a covered compartment for the patient and was operated by a medic in a military uniform. A young woman wears Max Factor's Beauty Calibrator, while experts take detailed measurements of her face. Created in 1932, the device helped define ideal proportions for makeup and Hollywood films. A woman rides a Premobile from the 1920s, an invention combining a motorized baby carriage with a bicycle. The vehicle could reach speeds of up to 15 miles per hour, providing a faster alternative for parents on the move. An early prototype of a lunar spacesuit developed by Republic Aviation Corporation in 1960. The rigid design included a visor and mechanical arms with pincers, but was abandoned due to limited astronaut mobility. 3 winners of a Best Posture contest in the 1950s pose next to their X-rays. The event evaluated body symmetry and spinal alignment as criteria for beauty and health. The Fat Men's Club of New York gathered large men who celebrated their size and lifestyle. To be a member, one had to weigh at least 220 pounds. The group held dinners and social gatherings. Pissoirs were public urinals common in 19th century France, installed outdoors on the streets to prevent men from urinating anywhere. Many had a simple design with little privacy. A Mexican couple dressed in ceremonial attire at the San Juan de los Lagos Fair in Mexico in 1940. The woman wears a mask covering her entire face, along with a crown of thorns, symbolizing penitence. Joseph Merrick, known as the Elephant Man, suffered from a rare condition that caused severe deformities. He worked in freak shows before being taken in by a doctor and spending his final years at the London hospital. Grady Stiles Jr., known as Lobster Boy, was born with ectrodactyly, a rare genetic condition. He grew up in his family's sideshow circus and became famous in the 1970s. His life was marked by struggles with alcohol and violence. Francesco Frank A. Lentini is seen in a photograph taken in Italy in 1920. He was born with a parasitic twin absorbed in the womb, giving him 3 legs, 4 feet, and 2 partially functional sets of genitals. A fairground attraction in Boston, Lincolnshire in 1957, where a woman simulates being electrocuted in a staged electric shock show. Such performances were popular for demonstrating resistance to electricity. A circus-strong woman balances a piano and a pianist on her chest, showcasing her incredible strength. Performers like her were popular attractions, displaying extraordinary feats of power at fairs and theaters in the 1920s. George Sherwood Stratton, known as General Tom Thumb, poses on a chair between 2 guards in 1860. A celebrity in P.T. Barnum's circus, he traveled the world attracting crowds with his short stature and performances. Myrtle Corbin was born with a rare condition called dapagus, which resulted in an extra pelvis and 4 legs. Exhibited in curiosity shows, her story drew attention in the late 19th century. A Chinese driver convicted of speeding poses with a kangwei, a wooden board used as punishment in East Asia until the 1900 early 20th century. The device weighed up to 30 pounds and was worn for 24 hours as a form of public humiliation. This is the last photo of Regina K. Walters taken by Robert Ben Rhodes. The criminal, known as the Highway Killer, abducted victims on highways in the United States. He was arrested in 1990 and sentenced to life in prison. During a wake, a translucent figure appears in the image, creating a ghostly effect. The use of double exposure was common in spirit photography, which gained popularity around 1920. Jeannie Wiley, seen in this photo from 1970, became known as the Feral Child. Kept in extreme isolation since childhood, at 13 years old, she could barely walk or speak, becoming a case studied by scientists. A young woman sits calmly as her hair is wrapped in a massive curling device. In the 1920s, electric devices like this were used to create permanent curls, despite the discomfort and risk of burns. A bearded woman poses serenely in a Victorian-era garden, wearing a long dress. People with this rare condition, known as hirsutism, often became attractions in curiosity shows in the 19th century. 2 men pose theatrically with exaggerated expressions and contorted bodies, creating a surreal image. Photos like these were common in variety shows in the late 19th century, blending humor and oddity. Isaac Sprague, known as the human skeleton, suffered from a rare condition that prevented him from gaining weight. He weighed only 42 pounds and became a popular attraction in 19th century curiosity shows. Young people participate in the popular phone booth cramming challenge of the 1950s. a competition where the goal was to fit as many people as possible into the cramped space. The record was 25. A woman and a man kiss while a technician smiles, observing a laboratory test conducted to determine how long lipstick remains intact after lip contact in the mid-1950s. A baby is surrounded by dozens of baby alligators on a farm in California. The parents thought it was a good idea to let the child be surrounded by these dangerous animals. A mother carefully holds her baby, both wearing gas masks adapted for adults and children as protection against chemical attacks during World War II in 1941. A child lies in a crib surrounded by various weapons, such as revolvers and knives. The photo was part of an old humorous series playing with the childhood fear of the boogeyman. This is the last photo sent by 17-year-old Dalen Pua before disappearing in Oahu, Hawaii. He was climbing the Haiku Stairs, known as the Stairway to Heaven, when he captured a blurry figure behind him. He was never found. Scratch marks on a wall in Auschwitz, Poland, preserved as historical evidence of World War II. The site was one of the primary concentration and extermination camps during the conflict. Adolf Hitler in a rare moment of closeness with one of Joseph Goebbels' daughters in Germany in 1942. Goebbels and his wife had 6 children, whose fate ended tragically at the end of the war. A mine rescuer in the United States in 1910 wears a protective suit against toxic gases. The bulky apparatus included a rudimentary respirator and a lantern for underground searches. Women are detained inside a police vehicle in Paris in 1956 during a crackdown on prostitution. While some remain calm, one of them sticks her tongue out at the camera. A giant manta ray weighing over 4,000 pounds was caught after getting entangled in an anchor off the coast of New Jersey in 1933. The crew struggled for hours before calling the Coast Guard, which required dozens of gunshots to subdue the animal. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade of 1939 featured giant balloons floating above the streets of New York. Among them was the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, symbolizing the impact of cinema at the time. This was the 1951 World's Most Beautiful Legs contest, where contestants posed in an unusual manner, wearing shirts that covered their heads. The focus was solely on their legs. 2 women carefully paint lines on their legs to simulate wearing stockings, a common practice in 1942 due to the wartime rationing of nylon. A child wearing special sunglasses receives artificial sun treatment at the Cheney Hospital for Children in Chelsea, London in 1928, a method used to combat diseases like rickets. Images captured by alleged medium William Hope, known as spirit photography, show supposed ghostly apparitions. At the time, even figures like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, believed in their authenticity. A flight attendant walks through Amsterdam Airport holding a cheetah on a leash. This unusual scene, captured on a KLM flight, reflects a time when transporting exotic animals on commercial flights was more tolerated. A baby carriage designed to withstand gas attacks was tested by a woman wearing a protective mask in England in 1938. The sealed compartment had a ventilation system to keep the baby safe. Scale models of Futuro houses were arranged on a mountainside in the late 1960s. These prefabricated homes had a futuristic design, resembling flying saucers, and were made of fiberglass. Maurice Tillet, a French wrestler known for his unusual appearance due to acromegaly, poses with American supermodel Dorian Lee in 1945. Maurice is believed to have inspired the creation of the character Shrek. Madame Gustica, promoted as a member of the Duckbill tribe, smokes a pipe through the large plates in her lips. Such lip plates were common in some African cultures and symbolized status. People in costumes take part in Fastnacht, a traditional German carnival. Large and bizarre masks were common in these events, worn in parades and street performances in the early 20th century. Cialo the Sealman, a famous circus performer with Folkamelia, enjoys breakfast in 1960. He worked in sideshows and films, impressing audiences with his ability to use his feet for everyday tasks. Professor W. H. McMillan was an eccentric musician who entertained crowds as a one-man band. He played the violin, drums, and harmonica simultaneously, performing at fairs and circuses in Texas in the 1910s. Designed by German engineer Hans Schleuer von Westhofen-Dirmstein, the Schleuerwagen had a shape inspired by airplane wings for maximum aerodynamic efficiency. However, the project did not move forward due to World War II. Students sitting at their desks wear paper cones on their heads as a way to prevent cheating during an exam. This unusual disciplinary method was adopted in some schools in the 20th century to deter dishonesty. Young Soviets wear gas masks during a military exercise in Leningrad. In 1937, under Stalin's rule, political tension was rising, and training like this prepared the population for possible chemical attacks. Contestants in the Miss Lovely Eyes pageant in Florida parade, wearing masks to highlight only their eyes. The competition took place around 1930, during the peak of beauty pageants in the United States. In the city of Kaliningrad in 1969, the Soviet robot Electron interacts with onlookers at a public event. Designed to demonstrate technological advancements, it receives a cup from an elderly woman. A Soviet sailor receives a harsh punishment in 1970, being tied to a mast and suspended over the water. This severe discipline was part of the strict military code during the Cold War era. Banknotes of German marks are sewn into a dress, symbolizing the economic crisis of 1923. Extreme inflation rendered money nearly worthless, leading citizens to barter and come up with creative uses for cash. A 1942 propaganda poster encourages carpooling during the war. It suggests that driving alone wastes fuel and helps the enemy, associating the practice with Hitler to reinforce the message. H.L. Baudouin proudly displays his unusual invention, a robust diving suit designed to withstand high pressure at great ocean depths in the United States in 1914. A ward filled with iron lungs in California in 1953, essential machines that kept polio patients alive by allowing them to breathe artificially for extended periods. Members of the Ku Klux Klan pose next to a Ferris wheel at a traveling carnival in Canyon City, Colorado, during a moment of leisure. At the time, the group enjoyed widespread popularity and government support. A Chinese woman in the late 19th century displays her bound feet, the result of a traditional practice that began in childhood and lasted a lifetime, representing status and beauty. A man undergoes an experimental electric bath treatment for rheumatism. The complex equipment, with various controls and coils, applied electrical currents to the water to stimulate circulation and relieve joint pain. American burlesque dancer Zorita walks with her pet snake in Miami in the 1940s. Known for her daring performances, she incorporated snakes into her shows, marking the entertainment of the era. On the outskirts of Plagne, France, scientists identified the longest track of sauropod dinosaur footprints ever discovered. Stretching for 492 feet, these marks were left 150 million years ago. Children dressed for Halloween posed for a photo in the early 1900s. The masks were simple, handmade, and had a bizarre appearance, quite different from today's colorful and detailed costumes. German girls in 1943 attend a racial education class taught by a teacher from the National Socialist Teachers League. The poster on the wall displays racial classifications used by the Nazi regime. Harriet Cole was a hospital janitor who decided to donate her body to science. Her contribution became an impressive exhibit. Her perfectly preserved nervous system, displayed since 1888, remains intact to this day. Two Japanese women in a Tokyo courtroom cover their faces with large straw baskets to hide their identities, reflecting a cultural practice of preserving honor when facing trials. The Jack Conrad Band bus, built specifically for the 1935 film Stolen Harmony, had a capacity for 36 passengers, an elevated cockpit called the Crow's Nest, and a futuristic design. Robert McGee survived a brutal scalping by the Sioux tribe in 1864 when he was just 13 years old. He was left with permanent scars, but continued to live and fight for survival after the trauma. Soldiers used papier-mâché heads to deceive enemy snipers in World War I trenches. These decoys helped attract gunfire and reveal enemy positions without exposing actual soldiers. A. Adams captured the first known photograph of a tornado in Kansas, documenting a rare phenomenon for the time in 1884. The tornado was weak and did not cause significant damage, but the image became historic. A disturbing note was left on the wall by the criminal known as the Lipstick Killer, asking to be stopped before killing again. The case shocked Chicago and led to his capture in 1946. Two women pose with signs around their necks indicating that they are single and looking for a husband. In the early 20th century, marriage was considered essential, and remaining single could carry social stigma. A man poses holding a rifle and a giant grasshopper in a manipulated photo before the digital era. Created in 1937 by the Crest Studio in Montana, images like this were common as photographic tricks for entertainment. Protesters in Hamburg in 1963 simulate nuclear attack protection protocol. Lying on sidewalks with backpacks as shields, they highlight the Cold War fears amid urban daily life. Due to the discovery of King Tut's tomb, Egypt fever took over the United Kingdom in the 1920s, leading to curious creations like gasoline pumps shaped like sphinxes to attract customers. John Meintz, a German-American farmer, shows the marks of the attack he suffered in 1918 when residents of Luverne, Minnesota, whipped him and covered him with tar and feathers amid anti-German sentiment in the United States. The experimental vehicle Doble Terra Star was designed in the early 20th century to navigate rough terrain. With an innovative articulated wheel system, it adapted to the ground for maximum traction but never went into production. A man's nose is measured with calipers by Nazi officials in 1940 as part of pseudoscientific racial classification practices. This method was a component of the regime's discriminatory policies. A woman wears a mask designed to stimulate smiling in a Budapest school in 1937. The device strapped to her face kept the lips curved upward as part of a treatment to improve mood and well-being. Pasquale Pignon, a circus performer in 1917, known as the Two-Headed Man. He had a tumor on his head that was altered to resemble a second face, making him a popular sideshow attraction in the United States. A scientist, protected by a special suit, descends into the radioactive darkness of Chernobyl, facing extreme radiation levels. The mission was part of efforts to contain the damage from the explosion. Joachim Kroll reenacts one of his crimes for the police shortly after his capture in 1976. Known as the Cannibal of Duisburg, he was arrested after parts of a victim clogged the plumbing in his building. A couple poses for a formal portrait while three children wear grotesque masks. During World War II, family photos were common, but this scene suggests an attempt at humor or unknown symbolism. Belgian miners are tightly packed inside a primitive elevator, waiting to descend into the mine in 1900. Working conditions were extreme, with long shifts and few safety measures. Betty Lou Oliver survived a 75-story fall in an elevator at the Empire State Building. Working as an elevator operator, she suffered the accident after a B-25 bomber collided with the building in 1945. Spectators at a screening test in 1979 react to the iconic chest-bursting scene in Alien. Without prior warning about the practical effect, the surprise generates genuine shock among the audience. Skiers crossed the snow just before the mysterious Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959. This was one of the last photos of the group before they were found dead under unexplained circumstances, generating theories to this day. Two women wear tight rubber beauty masks in a 1921 office. These accessories were believed to firm the skin, helping to reduce wrinkles and blemishes following the beauty standards of the era. A poker player wears a mask to hide her facial expressions during the game. This 1937 photograph captures an unusual attempt to maintain a poker face, preventing opponents from reading any clues about her cards. Two women wear tight facial masks as part of a beauty treatment in the 1940s. These beauty treatments promised younger, firmer skin, though the resulting look appeared more frightening than relaxing. A trio of performers poses for an unusual photograph in Dresden, wearing theatrical costumes and creating an intriguing illusion. The positioning and outfits make it appear as if there is a fusion between the characters, typical of Victorian-era humor. Two children dressed in traditional attire pose next to a strangely motionless figure with a concealed face. Improvised masks and neutral expressions create a haunting atmosphere, common in old Halloween photographs. A woman elegantly dressed poses between two grotesque-looking clowns who display exaggerated expressions and strange head ornaments. The photo, probably from the late 19th century, reflects the theatrical and eccentric tastes of the era. Madame de Vere from Brooksville, Kentucky, proudly displays her 6-inch-long beard in a Chicago photography studio in 1890. She performed in curiosity shows, challenging societal norms and attracting public attention. Three women from the Padaong tribe, known for their metal neck rings, drink tea in England in 1935. These rings, a cultural symbol, visually elongate the neck by pushing down the collarbone. Playgrounds in 1908 featured tall metal structures with few safety measures. Children climb bars and ropes without protection, reflecting an era with less concern for accidents. The Dale Creek Bridge in Wyoming was so unstable that trains had to slow down to just 4 miles per hour when crossing. Built in 1868, it stood 151 feet tall and swayed in the wind. Doug Coombs is captured mid-fall in the treacherous Corbett's Couloir in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, in 1989. The location is infamous for its extreme challenge, even for experienced skiers. A German circus performer pulls off an impressive feat by hanging by his hair 656 feet above the ground in 1960. Such techniques required years of training and were highlights in variety shows and traveling circuses. A French contortionist in 1865 displaying his incredible flexibility. Performers like him were already popular attractions in theaters and fairs, impressing audiences with their physical abilities. An experimental motorcycle with a reverse sidecar was designed to improve stability and aerodynamics. The passenger lay flat in the side structure, reducing wind resistance and distributing weight more efficiently during rides. Russell E. Oakes, in 1955, wears a device that includes a hand-operated fan, rods connected to his hands to manipulate utensils, and a metal frame adjustable to his face, allowing him to eat and read simultaneously. A massive pile of tens of thousands of bison skulls, which were ground into fertilizer in the United States. Nearly 30 million bison were slaughtered in the 19th century, nearly driving the species to extinction. Epidermodysplasia verruciformis, known as tree man syndrome, causes wart-like lesions resembling tree bark to grow on the hands and feet due to a rare genetic disorder. Minnie Woolsey, known as Coo the Bird Girl, had features characteristic of Seckle syndrome affecting her development. She performed in variety shows, including Coney Island, and appeared in the film Freaks. Daisy and Violet Hilton, British conjoined twins, celebrate their 17th birthday in the United States in the 1930s. Known for their performances in sideshows, they toured the country and appeared in films. Millie and Christine McCoy, conjoined twins born in the southern United States, were exploited in exhibitions. Known as the Two-Headed Nightingale, they traveled across the United States and Europe, performing duets. A man is surrounded by enormous models of teeth in a peculiar store. Likely a dental office or prosthetics workshop, the location displays giant dentures to attract customers' attention. Just days after this photo, Charlie Lawson, second from the right, killed his family on Christmas Day in 1929 in North Carolina. Only his 16-year-old son Arthur survived, as his father sent him on an errand before committing the crime. George and Willie Muse, black albino brothers, were kidnapped and exploited in circuses in the 1920s as the Men from Mars. They gained fame after their mother fought for their freedom, securing their right to manage their own success. Josephine Joseph, a circus performer, exhibited one side of the body as male and the other as female, earning a role in the film Freaks. Josephine claimed to be intersex, though there is little medical evidence to confirm this. During a Coney Island sideshow, an albino man poses next to the fat lady. In the background, posters promote the Flea Circus, a popular attraction of the time featuring trained insects performing tricks. Jack Earl, an actor and circus performer, poses alongside members of the Doll family, who were dwarf entertainers. At 7 feet 8 inches tall, Earl toured with the Ringling Brothers and worked in silent films. Temporarily blinded British soldiers walk in a line toward a medical post after a gas attack in France in April 1918. Poison gas was one of the most feared weapons of the war. Freemasons in Arizona in 1897 hold a solemn meeting inside a cave decorated with the fraternity's iconic G. Wearing traditional aprons, the members reinforce the aura of secrecy surrounding the society. Thousands of Albanians cling desperately to the cargo ship Flora, trying to flee the crisis in their country. With the collapse of the communist regime, many risked their lives crossing the Adriatic Sea in search of refuge. Horace Riddler, known as the Zebra Man, in 1946. A former British officer, he covered his body with exotic tattoos to perform in freak shows, becoming a notable figure in the entertainment world. A chest X-ray is taken at Dr. Maxime Menard's radiology department at Cochin Hospital in Paris in 1910. The patient stands inside a booth while the doctor observes the real-time image through a viewing panel. 8 missile trails from the Peacekeeper nuclear missile illuminate the sky over the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands during a test in 1984. The missile could launch up to 10 nuclear warheads at different targets simultaneously. Alvin Karpis, a member of the Barker Karpis gang, displays his surgically altered fingerprints in the 1930s to evade police identification in crimes. A Burmese family, 2 of whom had faces covered in hair due to hypertrichosis, was exhibited as an attraction in P.T. Barnum's circus in 1890. People with this condition were frequently exploited in curiosity shows. Ruth Berry, born around 1910, performed as Mignon the Penguin Girl due to phocomelia, which fused her fingers, giving them a flipper-like appearance. She was a circus attraction for over 30 years. Ed Gein, the infamous murderer and necrophile, crafted these gloves from human skin taken from exhumed corpses. His crimes shocked the United States and inspired characters like Leatherface, Norman Bates, and Buffalo Bill. Todd Browning poses with part of the cast of Freaks in 1932, a controversial film that portrayed circus performers with rare conditions. The production caused an uproar and was banned in some countries, but became a cult classic decades later. Sylvia Portis, known as Sylvia the Elephant Girl, was a circus attraction in the 1940s. Her rare condition drew attention, but she won over audiences with her charisma and talent, becoming one of the most memorable performers of her time. Omaira Sanchez was trapped in debris following the eruption of Nevado del Ruiz in Armero, Colombia, in 1985. She remained submerged for nearly 3 days while rescue teams attempted to save her. Sadly, she did not survive. 3 people pose with experimental helmets designed to isolate the senses. In the 1960s, inventions like these were tested to create new forms of perception and enhance privacy in public spaces. A man wears an elaborate mask and traditional attire from the Senufo people in Burkina Faso in 1952. The wooden mask, adorned with geometric patterns and feathers, is used in cultural rituals. A man dressed in a traditional bear costume for the Bielsa Carnival in Spain in the early 1900s. This centuries-old celebration symbolizes the arrival of Lent and preserves an ancient Pyrenean folklore tradition. A Soviet family listens to a radio for the first time in the 1920s, a period marked by economic struggles, famine, and reconstruction after the Russian Revolution and the Civil War. The radio symbolized modernity. A ventriloquist poses with his disturbingly lifelike puppet in a 19th-century photography studio. Handmade, these puppets often had exaggerated expressions, creating a rather unsettling effect. A child poses next to a figure representing Krampus, the mythical creature that punished misbehaving children according to European folklore. Images like this were common on Christmas cards around the early 1900s. Prisoners on Devil's Island participate in an unusual race, rolling inside barrels as part of a recreational event. The infamous penal colony in French Guiana was known for its brutal conditions and near-impossible escape attempts. George Metesky, known as the Mad Bomber, smiles behind bars after his capture. For 16 years, he planted explosives around New York as revenge against the electric company that fired him, being arrested in 1957.